Homecoming Saturday for the Concord Mountain Lions, West Virginia State, and former Concord assistant coach from about a decade ago, John Pennington, comes to town. Wes McKinney along with head coach Cody Edwards. Coach, I know not a lot of good to pull from the Frostburg State game, but I thought your defense actually played a lot better than maybe the final score would suggest of 33-7. A couple of individual standouts. Xavier Ellison, career high 13 tackles, most for any Mountain Lion in almost 2 years, and then Corey Ratcliffe just continues to hunt balls in the secondary and find interceptions. What did you take away from those two individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I think they both played at a pretty high level. They've got a really good understanding of what we're doing defensively. They really understand our scheme and our structure and how we get things done. And they've progressed, pretty well over the course of the football season. Xavier keeps coming along and playing at a high level. Corey played in this defense previously before coming here, so he's got a little bit more of a knowledge and a knowledge base. But, those guys have been playing at a high level all season. I think overall, defensively there are some positives to take away, but still at the end of the day, over 30 points, almost 400 yards total offense. Like there's some things that we definitely have to improve on in that area.
What is Corey doing individually? Because it's not like teams are just purposely throwing him the
Yeah.
ball, but interceptions in 3 straight games now. What is he doing to put himself in that position?
Yeah, Corey is an incredibly high football IQ player. So if in the course of a few games this year, Corey has taken us out of potentially catastrophic plays because he just understands the defense and he understands where everybody around him is supposed to be. So there have been times where we've busted coverages and Corey has just kind of made it right on his own because he's got a really good understanding of what we're doing. So Corey's a super high football IQ player. He's almost able to kind of bait quarterbacks into throwing the ball where he wants them to throw it at times. And Corey's just a really high football IQ player, and I'm glad we have him.
All right, last thing about the Frostburg State game, your running game. Getting some momentum here. You had a run of 25 yards and a run of 29 yards. By far your 2 longest rushing plays of the year. What has that side of the offense done to just kind of continue to just push the ball? Yeah,
I challenged our offensive staff last week to find more explosive runs in the game plan. We've been pretty explosive in the passing game, but we've just not been there quite, or all the way quite there in the run game. And I really challenged our offensive staff last week to find more run plays or more explosive run plays in the game plan in order to try to keep drives alive. Now we ran the ball at, I think it's 3.8 yards per carry, but we were 1 of 17 on 3rd down. So it's hard to sustain drives, even though we're running the ball well. If we can't keep drives alive on 3rd down, putting ourselves behind the chains a little bit here and there with some bad penalties, it affects negatively that run game to even out or produce maybe more than what you saw on Saturday. But I think our offensive coaching staff did a really good job last week of putting together a game plan to find those runs. It's just we didn't play a complete game on offense. We were struggled mightily in the pass game all day, and so even though we were more explosive than we have been in the run game, we weren't very good on offense.
All right, let's shift our attention towards the Yellow Jackets of West Virginia State. It's a offense that is exploding right now. I think 46 points per game or thereabouts in their last 3. Lost a heartbreaker last week on the last play of the game to West Liberty. Earlier in the week, you said this West Virginia State quarterback may be one of the best players in the entire conference. Let's spend some time on Caleb Jackson. What does he do with the football that concerns you?
Yeah, he's super talented. Number one, he's got a really strong arm. He's very athletic. He can win with his feet and his arms, which creates a pretty unique battle for us to face on Saturday. He's a guy who doesn't necessarily look to run the football, runs the football in advantageous areas for him. He's going to stand in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield. Rush happens, he's going to step to the right or to the left to avoid the rush, keeping his eyes downfield. And then, if he has to, he will take off and run. He keeps a lot of drives alive for them, which for us is going to be very important to keep our pass rush cage, keep him in the pocket. Because if we don't, a 3rd and 7 turns into a 14-yard run by him just because he's intelligent enough to be able to get out of the pocket safely. But he's got a really strong arm. He's got really good receivers around him. He's not afraid to put the ball in the air and just let his guys go make a play. And so I think it's a great for him. It's a great balance, because you have to defend everything when it comes to playing a player like him.
All right, they throw the ball, the Yellow Jackets do, but the running game, Coach Pennington played under Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia, 20-some-odd years ago. He has that running style ingrained in him. how they have so much success in the running game.
Yeah, they're physical in the run game, and they've got 3 running backs who are really talented. They're one of their running backs, I think, is number 6 in the conference right now in yards per game. But they've got 3 running backs who are really good, and they're kind of different. They've got kind of different skill sets, and then you mix in the quarterback run game because they'll get the quarterback involved in the run game as well. So now it makes you play 11-on-11 football. You know, if you've got a statue back there, quarterback, you in some ways you can play 10-on-11 unless they're reading somebody. But for him, you know, they've got talented running backs. He can throw the ball to some talented receivers, and then they also can mix in the quarterback run game, which presents its own set of problems because now it's truly 11-on-11 football.
All right, during Coach Pennington's tenure at West Virginia State, traditionally a 3-3-5 odd stack team. It looks like this year they've gone to more of a 3-4 defense, which is kind of, you know, pushed out of the college game. But what does State do on that side of the ball? Yeah,
I mean, I think number one, they've got a really good scheme. You know, they've got a first-year coordinator. I know he's in the conference previously. He was a high school coach, but he's back in the conference. You know, first-year coordinator. He kind of has brought a different flavor to their defense this year than what we had seen maybe on previous years. So they do a really good job in terms of disguising some of their coverages. They play really hard. I think we talk about that almost every week. The mark of a really good defense is that they play hard. It's not just about having good players or good schemes. It's about playing hard. And Coach Jackson gets those guys to play really hard on that side of the ball. And then they're able to do some things up front in their pressure packages. They've got good players to mix in with it. So they've got a good overall setup there in terms of what they're doing defensively. So they're well coached and they play hard.
Third phase of the game was important last week. That was, you know, I think something Concord can hang their hat on. You guys basically stole 2 possessions at Frostburg, had the second half kickoff recovery, and then Brody Rice fell on a muff punt.
Yep.
How important is that third phase on Saturday? Because West Virginia State, although they have not had any special teams touchdowns, they're going to put balls in their playmakers' hands on special teams and try to score.
Yep, absolutely. They're really talented on special teams. I think their returners are really talented. They play hard. You know, you look at the units, the coverage units, those guys play really hard. They run down the field with bad intentions, you know, but it's all tied together. So if our offense sputters and we got to punt the ball, well, if we punt the ball and we give up a big return, that puts our defense in a bad situation. Same thing on kickoff return. You know, it's so important. If we sputter on offense, we got to punt, that we're able to cover the punt, force fair catches, try to flip the field in that area. So it's all tied together. And so we were able to steal a couple possessions last week, but then you also looked, you know, we had a punt blocked and we gave up a big punt return as well. So it's like it's kind of you're giving and you're taking away. You know, we have to focus this week on taking away and not giving. And I think that's the important piece because, you know, special teams at times it's going to be a great weapon for you, but if you're not skilled and you're not talented and you don't play really hard on special teams, it puts your offense and your defense in a bad way. So it's all 3 phases are tied together.
Should be a great atmosphere on Saturday. Should be a good game. Concord and West Virginia State. Kickoff 2 p.m. from Callahan Stadium here in Athens. We hope you will join us for the head coach, Cody Edwards. I'm Wes McKinney. We thank you for watching.